The town of Cobh has a long and storied maritime history. It used to be known as the Town of Tears. From here, 2.5 million Irish people left for the United States and Canada, many never to return. In 1912, the Titanic made its last stop at what was then Queenstown before its faithful maiden voyage. But no historical event was more significant than the sinking of the Lusitania in these waters on May the 7th, 1915. The Lusitania was the pride of the Cunard fleet. When she was built, she was the largest passenger liner in the world and for a time the fastest. She was capable of carrying 2,000 passengers and crew and had a top speed of 25 knots or nearly 30 miles per hour. This made her a prime target for German U-boats during the First World War. On the day of its last journey, the German government published an ominous warning in the New York Times. Germany was at risk with Britain and every ship was a target. Passengers travelled at their own risk, but few believed the Germans would sink an ocean liner and possibly bring the United States into the war. The Lusitania's route took it from New York to Liverpool, a journey of about 5 days. The Germans had declared an exclusion zone around Britain and Ireland. All ships entering this zone were liable to be sunk. On the afternoon of May the 7th, the Lusitania was 12 miles off the Old Head of Kinsale when she was sunk by a single torpedo fired from a German U-boat, the U-20. The torpedo caused a massive explosion. Passengers and crew also remembered hearing a secondary explosion. The ship sank in just 18 minutes with the loss of almost 1,200 lives, many of them women and children. The sinking of the Lusitania caused international revulsion around the world. Remember the Lusitania, Irishmen were urged. For weeks afterwards, Cobh became the centre of world attention. From here, dozens of little craft rescued survivors.
We are now at the back of the Cunard Line offices, which is West Beach here in Cobh, and behind me here are the remnants of the jetty where most of the victims and the survivors were brought into. 169 victims were brought in here to this jetty, taken off and brought in here where this garden is now, and the sheds here behind us, where the bodies were checked out, identified and searched for identification. Most of the bodies would have been put into coffins in the sheds here behind us and taken away down further to the quays where to be embalmed, and some were taken to the market house, which is now the Cobh Library, which is along the town further, and for identification. So this is the area at the back of the Cunard Quay in Cobh.
Many of the dead from the Lusitania are buried in these mass graves in the old cemetery overlooking the town of Cobh.
I'm here in the Old Church Cemetery, which is just outside the town of Cobh, and I'm standing in front of one of the mass graves where the victims of the Lusitania are buried. There's 3 mass graves in the cemetery. There was 169 people buried from the Lusitania in this cemetery, in 3 mass graves and in 20 individual graves.
The last word on the Lusitania tragedy goes to the then First Lord of the Admiralty, Winston Churchill. The poor babies who perished in the ocean struck a blow at German power more deadly than could have been achieved by the sacrifice of 100,000 fighting men.